She's pregnant, but not by me, and her mother says I owe support. That is how my Tuesday started, with cinnamon burning on the stove and the smoke alarm screeching like a gossiping neighbor. By 9 in the morning, my phone was full of texts calling me cruel, unstable, unmanly, pick your poison. They said I abandoned my wife the moment she needed me most, and yet, in the same breath, they admit the child isn't mine. Here is the miniature headline for anyone skimming. My wife cheated, got pregnant, and I asked her to leave. I changed the locks by dinner. By midnight, I knew exactly who the father was. And the ending? Let's just say someone showed up at my door with a diaper bag and a confession, and I did not call the police. Not at first. Me, male, 29 years old. Wife, female, 28 years old. We met at a street art crawl in Indianapolis. I design museum exhibits, mood lighting, plaques that make you linger. She teaches Pilates, all posture and precision. We married last summer in a park that smelled like wet grass and lemonade. When I proposed, she laughed and cried at the same time and told me, let's build a life where nothing's hidden. I remember the exact shade of her lipstick that day, rust rose, and how it left a print on my beer bottle, a fossil of a promise. A month ago, I opened her iPad to queue up a recipe for ginger chicken and saw a text thread titled Tuesday Training. The language inside was not about core engagement. My hands stank of garlic and the world tilted. She came home reeking of eucalyptus oil and told me I looked pale. I said, I read the messages. She folded like a postcard. There's more, she said. I'm late. I said nothing for a full minute because silence had more dignity than shouting. Then I told her to pack a bag. I left 3 brand new moving boxes on the bed next to the pillow she always warmed on her side. I won't scream, I said. I'm just done. Think about the baby, her mother texted, as if a baby were a shared library book I had checked out and forgotten under the couch. The friends group chat, the one where we plan nacho nights, lit up. She needs you, typed Marissa, who sells high-end candles and moralizes like they come with wicks of wisdom. The man who got her pregnant should support her, I replied. Marissa left me on read. 2 of my college buddies sent thumbs-up emojis and a beer mug. My father added a grocery list of legal advice. Do not let her move back in, he wrote. Consult a lawyer. Paper trail matters. The oven timer went off with its polite beep, 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 and I forgot there was anything in it. The casserole slumped like a bad apology. My wife, let's call her Ivy, stood with her suitcase by the door, eyes soft, mouth hard. I'm sorry, she said. It didn't mean... It meant, I said, and pointed to the hall. She hesitated. It was the hesitation of someone waiting for my better nature to make an appearance. It didn't. The door closed with a whisper. For 3 seconds, I felt nothing, like a screen gone black. Then I heard her text. People will talk. I texted back, let them. I asked myself, would you ever give them a second chance? Then I pictured the test strips in our bathroom trash. 2 pink lines like railway tracks leaving the station without me. My answer was no. The smoke alarm hiccuped and finally shut up. I put on a jacket that smelled faintly of last winter's bonfire and went for a walk, passing the noodle place where the windows fog in winter and the kids' soccer field where mothers in puffy coats arrange snack schedules. Somewhere behind me, a car door opened and closed, and Ivy's suitcase wheels made that small, desperate rattle on concrete, like a pet scratching to be let back in. I kept walking. Not my baby, not my burden. That was the line I practiced out loud, tasting each word like a sip of black coffee. It wasn't a threat, it was a boundary. And still, there was a part of me, the curator, the storyteller, that wanted a neat ending. Remorse, counseling, reconciliation, an Instagram caption about weathering storms. But boundaries are not inspirational quotes. They are locks, and I had changed mine. The neighborhood grapevine moves faster than news alerts. By the next morning, Ivy's mother and 2 Pilates students sent me paragraphs about compassion. I poured black tea that tasted metallic and stared at the kitchen tile grout, a storm map under my feet. Compassion is a beautiful word. You can embroider it onto a throw pillow. You cannot use it to swaddle a betrayal. Around noon, my sister, Paige, stormed into my living room with a box of donuts and tactical energy. Paige is 32 years old, a nurse who counts heartbeats for a living and nonsense for a hobby. "We are going to triage this," she announced, handing me a maple long john. "First, you eat. Second, lawyer. Third, narrative." "Narrative?" I asked. Powdered sugar coughed into the air.
"She is already telling people you kicked a pregnant woman into the street," Paige said, scrolling. "We are not doing the villain husband storyline." "I am not the villain," I said, my voice doing that crack it does when you carry a heavy box. "That's not the point," Paige said. "The point is people are lazy with facts. We are going to give them bullet points so even the laziest can follow." We drafted them at the kitchen counter with a pen that smelled faintly like an expo marker. 1. Ivy had a months-long affair. 2. Ivy is pregnant with the other man's child. 3. Ivy hid both the affair and pregnancy until discovered. 4. Ivy was not kicked into the street. She has family, friends, and a well-compensated Pilates studio owner who posts daily about manifesting abundance. 5. The father can and should support the pregnancy. "Post those exact 5 items to your group chat," Paige said, "and copy her mother." "Copy her mother?" "She started it," Paige said, eyes bright with triage satisfaction. I did as ordered. The group chat went silent, the way a classroom does when the teacher asks who has read the book. 10 minutes later, a message pinged from an unknown number. "We should talk," it said, "please." There was a photo attached, an infant car seat brochure of all things, as if to remind me that strollers exist. I scrolled up to the contact, Graham. The name hit me with a dumb thud, because of course his name would be Graham, a word that tastes like crackers and guilt. We met once at a charity 5K. He had a nice watch and the smug posture of a man who thinks the world owes him more than traffic. He is also the regional manager for a chain of fitness centers, owning the air Ivy breathes 5 days a week. I stared at the message until the letters blurred. "Do you think I'll regret this later?" I asked Paige, the donut a stone in my stomach. "You'll regret not setting the boundary," she said. "Regret is just grief with a map." The front yard smelled like damp leaves. My neighbor's wind chimes made a tinny melody. I texted Graham, "No need to talk. You will support her." He answered in 3 dots, then nothing. My father called to say he found me a lawyer, Sharon Wolf, a woman who has never lost a case where someone tried to smuggle a lie into a courtroom. I said yes to the appointment. Paige left her coffee mug on the counter and drew a smiley face and a patch of spilled sugar. "You aren't a monster," she said, grabbing her keys. "You're a man with a boundary." The door clicked behind her, and I stood in my quiet house, counting the seconds until the next ping. Ivy's sister, Lexi, invited me to a cafe that smells like cinnamon and has chairs that squeak whenever you move, like you are sitting on whales. I arrived in my work clothes, dark jeans, gray sweater, the kind of outfit that says I tried without admitting how much. Lexi wore sunglasses indoors, like a celebrity or a migraine, and pushed a latte towards me with a foam heart bleeding down one edge. "Everyone's very upset," she said, as if reading the weather. "I imagine," I said. "Ivy is fragile right now." She was not fragile when she was lying. It came out clean, like I had rinsed it first. Lexi flinched. "I did not know," she said. "I swear." She stirred her latte so the foam heart tore in two. "She told me she was late last week, and that she was going to tell you, and then she did not, and now it is a mess." "Ivy told me she's 12 weeks, I said. Where was your concern 3 months ago?" Lexi looked down at her phone case, pink with a glitter crescent moon. "I was trying to be Switzerland," she said. "Switzerland does not get invited to this war." She glared and leaned forward. "You made her leave," she said. "That is cold." "The man who impregnated her can keep her warm," I replied, and the words tasted like pennies in my mouth. "You have a guest room, Lexi. Put your money where your sermons are." Lexi breathed out. "Graham is married," she said, so softly I almost missed it over the hiss of milk steaming behind the counter. "Of course he is married," I said, and pictured his stainless steel watch flashing in the sun at the charity run. "Of course he is." I felt a hot, stupid tenderness for Ivy, a fresh grief trying on a new outfit.
She had not just betrayed me, she had boarded a sinking ship, and the captain had other passengers to save. Lexi touched my sleeve. "Is emotional cheating worse than physical cheating?" she asked, like it was a trivia question that could award us points. "Does it matter?" I said. I was not invited to either. Lexi removed her sunglasses, and I saw that her eyes were swollen. "She needs prenatal care," she said. "She needs stability. She needs accountability." The cafe's door opened, trailing in November air and the smell of rain on pavement, and a place to stay that is not mine. Lexi stood, scraping her chair. "You used to love her bravely," she said. "Where is that man?" "That man is still here," I said, collecting my jacket. "He just stopped confusing kindness with surrender." As I walked out, the barista called an order for Graham, and I did not turn around, but the back of my neck prickled like a lie. By the time I met Attorney Wolf, the clouds over downtown were so low they felt like wet wool on my shoulders. Her office smelled like lemon cleaner and paper. She wore a scarlet scarf in a way that made it seem weaponized. "Let me say the quiet part loud," she began, clicking her pen. "Even if a child is not biologically yours, marrying someone who gives birth during the marriage can tangle you in responsibility. It varies by state. We create distance now. You do not attend appointments, you do not coo at ultrasounds, you do not buy a single onesie." "I would not," I said, my voice a little hoarse. She handed me a yellow legal pad. "Write down every instance of her deception," she said. "Dates, who knew what, screenshots. We will counter any narrative that you abandoned a fragile angel. You abandoned a liar." I wrote until my hand cramped. The ginger chicken night, the eucalyptus oils, the iPad thread. Wolf read silently, nodding. "Good," she said. "We will also send a letter to Mr. Graham." She glanced at the intake form. "Do you have his last name?" "Anthony," I said, and she typed like fury. "His wife will need to know," she said. "I do not relish detonating people's lives, but I prefer truth over mold." I swallowed. My mouth tasted like the last lozenge in the tin, medicinal and bitter. "Is cheating about love, lust, or disrespect?" I asked, not because I wanted philosophy, but because I needed a reason that would sit still. Wolf's smile was brittle. "Cheating is about permission," she said, "granting it to oneself and stealing it from the partner." She pushed across a folder. "Here is your permission to move forward." That night I slept for 2 hours and woke to a noise, a soft scraping at my window, like someone erasing a chalkboard. It was a branch in the wind. I laughed and it came out like a bark. At 3:13 a.m., my phone buzzed, a photo of a sonogram, grainy storm cloud with a whisper of a shape. No caption. I put the phone face down on the nightstand. I dreamed of museum glass, how you can see right through it and still be told not to touch. In the morning, there was an envelope on my porch with no address, just my name in a looped hand. Inside was a cashier's check for $2,000 and a note, "For the lease deposit, please." No signature, but it reeked of eucalyptus. My house smelled like coffee and fury. I stared at the check until the numbers blurred. Then I tore it in half. In the quiet, I heard the refrigerator hum and the neighbor's dog bark, and somewhere, faintly, a train. Here is the twist I promised. Graham's wife, Andrea, is the one who knocked on my door, holding the diaper bag like a flag of truce. The sky was a clean blue slice after a morning of rain. The road glittered with puddles. She wore a navy sweater and a face that had learned new knowledge in a cruel hour. "I am Andrea," she said, and I knew because betrayal recognizes itself like a mirror. She smelled faintly of orange peel and printer ink. She held out her phone. On the screen was a photo of a text thread with Ivy's name at the top and a paragraph from Graham pasted beneath it, bragging about how she thinks I will leave, but she is too clingy. I need time. "Your attorney sent me a letter," Andrea said. "I asked him about the letter, and he tried to spin. Then I found the messages in our cloud backup." "I am sorry," I said. "I meant it in the way you mean sorry when a meteor hits a town you have never visited." "I am not here to deliver moral outrage," Andrea said. "I am here because my kids deserve to know if they are about to have a half-sibling and whether their college fund is about to be redirected to hush money." She opened the diaper bag and pulled out a spiral-bound planner with little daisies on the cover. "This is Ivy's," she said. "I found it in his gym bag." Inside, there were notes in neat print. Tuesday, 7 p.m., meet G. Friday, prenatal vitamins. Saturday, talk to L about leave. Receipts crinkled like old leaves. There was a movie ticket stub that smelled faintly of butter. A pressed flower. My wife's life, curated for someone else. Andrea stared at my countertop, at the tiny scratch shaped like a crescent moon I had always meant to buff out. "I want him gone," she said. "I will not be the woman who tutored a liar in more polite lying." She looked up at me. "Would you blame yourself or only them?" "I blame the people who hid," I said. We sat at my table with 2 mugs, mine black, hers with a splash of cream, and formed a plan. She would confront him somewhere public. I would not be there. She would record. The lawyer would receive the file. Later that afternoon, Andrea texted me a video from the parking lot of a home improvement store. In it, Graham stumbled on his lies like shoes 2 sizes too big. "I will fix this," he kept saying, as if fix were the right verb and not confess. Andrea's voice was level. A car alarm beeped once in the distance, a punctuation mark. I watched until the end, heart slamming. Then I looked around my quiet house, the spider plant in the window, the bowl of clementines like summer buttons, the throw blanket Paige bought me with a ridiculous fringe, and breathed for what felt like the first time all week. I texted my lawyer the file. I texted Paige a single word: progress. I let the silence come and not feel like a verdict. The baby shower invitation arrived by mistake. It was addressed to Andrea and forwarded to me by certified mail like a dare. Pastel clouds, gold foil. "Join us to celebrate the mommy-to-be," in a font that looked like it was trying too hard to be happy. The venue was a Pilates studio with glass walls, where everything smells like citrus disinfectant and expensive water. The date, 3 weeks out. "Do not go," Paige said over the phone, her voice a stethoscope, listening for my better sense. "I am not going," I said, opening my fridge to a lemon that had gone wrinkly like it had a secret. "But I am inviting someone else." We sent the invite to Graham's board of directors, to his district manager, to the wife of his biggest client. No commentary, just the image, the date, the address. Wolf drafted the email and told me to hit send. "We are not cruel," she said. "We are transparent." On the morning of the shower, I did something normal. I fixed a wobbly chair, tightening the screws until the legs stood firm on my kitchen tile. The drill whirred, a sound I have always found calming. The world is mostly problems without solutions. A stripped screw is not one of them. My phone buzzed. Andrea again. A photo. The studio doors with a closed for private event sign. On the other side of the glass, Graham's district manager in a suit that looked expensive and unhappy. 30 minutes later, Ivy texted me for the first time in a week. "This is your fault," she wrote. "You humiliated me." I stood very still in my newly steady chair and felt something like weather pass through me, wind becoming light. "You humiliated yourself," I typed and deleted. Then I set the phone down and poured a glass of water that tasted like nothing at all. Marissa from the group chat called. "You went too far," she said. "This is a private matter." "And a public pregnancy," I said. "Private matters are not sponsored by a corporation." "People make mistakes," she said, a lighter flicking in her voice, the sound of someone defending because they recognize themselves in the accused. "Do you think I should have just let it go?" I asked, not because I needed her answer, but because I wanted to hear what she believed about consequence. Marissa sighed, the kind of sigh that fogs a mirror. "I think you crossed a line," she said. "I think she crossed a vow," I replied. I hung up and blocked the number. The chair did not wobble. When the court date came for the temporary orders, the waiting room smelled like peppermint and anxiety. Ivy wore a cream sweater and held her belly with both hands, like she was bracing against a wind. I felt a flash of tenderness, the muscle memory of vows. It passed like a shadow. Wolf stood beside me, steady as a lighthouse. Graham was not there. Andrea was, which felt like a kind of justice. The judge, a woman with hair like frost and a voice like gravel, reviewed the affidavits. "You," she said to Ivy, "chose your conduct." She turned to me. You are not under any obligation to house or support the petitioner. Wolf handed over the letter to Graham and the video file. The judge blinked slowly, then typed. The keys made the same sound as rain on a car roof. Outside, the air had that sharp courthouse smell. Paper, old carpet, ego. Ivy approached me in the corridor with a look I had not seen since our early days. Reckless hope. "We could figure this out," she said. "Counseling, we could—" "Would you rather be lied to than cheated on?" I asked, because I needed her to understand that all routes led back to the same lost exit. Her eyes shone. "I am sorry," she said. "I am scared." I took a breath and found the line that would fit through my teeth without breaking. "I know you are scared," I said, "and sometimes fear makes people selfish." I glanced down at the floor, where someone had dropped a paperclip, small and silver as a fish. But my compassion is not a leash. "Just tell me what to do," she whispered.
Start by telling the truth to yourself, I said, and to the other people you promised things to. I nodded toward Andrea, who was speaking softly to Wolf across the hall. Ivy looked down, her fingers pressing crescent moons into her sweater. She walked away without looking back. The doors hissed as they closed behind her. Months later, I saw Ivy at a farmer's market on a Saturday that smelled like peaches and sunscreen. There was a stroller with a navy canopy, and a tiny foot in a sock with a yellow star kicked at the summer air. Ivy did not notice me at first. She was buying flowers, peonies the color of blushing secrets. When she saw me, her face passed through a weather system. Sun, cloud, rain, sun again. "His name is Rowan," she said, unasked. "He sleeps like a poet and eats like a bulldozer." I nodded, because babies deserve tenderness, no matter the math that brought them here. "He is beautiful," I said, and meant it. "I am sober," she said, and when I raised an eyebrow, she laughed, quick and bitter. "Sober from lying," she said. "I am working on it. Andrea and I text sometimes. I think she is learning to breathe in a new way." "And Graham?" I asked. "Gone," she said, her mouth a flat line. "His board transitioned him. Andrea is divorcing him. He will see Rowan if and when a court says so." She lifted her chin. "I work mornings and my mother babysits. We are okay." A breeze lifted the edge of the stroller blanket. Rowan's fingers knotted into a fist and then slowly unfurled, as if releasing a secret. I thought about all the nights I had stared at the ceiling, counting my losses like sheep. "I am glad you are okay," I said. She handed me one peony, and it smelled like rain on clean clothes. "Do you think friendship can survive something like this?" she asked, not quite meeting my eyes. I looked at the flower, and then at the street where a busker played a song from 10 summers ago. I thought about my boundary, and about the way forgiveness sometimes means letting go of the rope, not hauling harder. "I do not think we know each other anymore," I said gently, "and that is okay." We stood for a moment in the soft noise of the market, vendors calling out, a kid dropping a grape and crying like the world had ended, a dog shaking off water with the joy of a small miracle. Then I walked away, peony in hand, and did not look back. There was a booth selling iced lemonade in sweating cups. I bought one, and the tartness bit my tongue in a way that felt honest. "Boundaries aren't cruelty," I told my reflection in the lemonade lid. "They are railings on a bridge." Another one-liner, sure, but I liked how it tasted. Sometimes healing sounds like your own voice coming back to you. The last scene is quieter than the first, because peace does not announce itself with sirens. My exhibit opens in September, a show about secret compartments in antique furniture. I wrote the placards myself. One of them says, "A hidden drawer hides, but it also preserves." Another says, "If you press the wrong panel, the whole thing jams." The opening night smelled like buttered popcorn from the theater next door and old wood warmed by summer. Paige came with a date who laughs in paragraphs. My father hugged me with the slow squeeze of a man counting blessings. After the speeches, I slipped into the dusty back hallway where the climate control hums and the exit sign glows steady red. I read a text from Andrea. She and the kids had made lasagna and there was a plate with my name on it. I said I would come by after the crowd thinned. On the way out, I passed a display case that reflected me back at myself. I looked older, or maybe just more in focus.
At home, I watered the spider plant and tossed the shriveled lemon and put the peony, now slightly browning at the edges, into the compost. I kept the ribbon. The house smelled like clean linen and basil. I made tea. It tasted like the first day after a long fever. I thought again about the chorus of voices back then. The guilt, the push, the story everyone wanted to write for me. Is being direct always better than being polite? I do not know. I do know that being clear saved my life. I carried the lasagna to the table and lit a candle that smelled like cedar and rain. And for a second, for a single perfect second, the past was another room I did not have to enter. And that is when I realized, love does not fix lies, it drowns in them.